G'day folks, how you going? Today we're starting leg 2 of our road trip to Darwin. If you haven't seen leg 1, then up here somewhere should be a link to where you can go and check that one out first. We've been in Broome for the last few days having a look around, and now it's time to start leg 2. Leg 2, that'll take us from Broome to Darwin. It's a little over 1800 kilometres, and I've already travelled almost 3500 kilometres, and we'll finally be leaving the state of WA and going into the Northern Territory. But before we hit the road, let's have a look around the Cable Beach Caravan Park where we've been staying for the last 4 nights. Cable Beach Caravan Park is only one street back and an easy 10-minute walk from the beach. The park is pretty big, but during peak periods you need to book at least a couple of weeks ahead. The park has a security gate at the entrance and those tyre shredders at the exit, so don't get them mixed up. You expect in Broome that there'd be plenty of trees for shade, and this is no exception. Almost every site that I saw had some kind of shade at some part of the day, with most in almost full shade. The park is a bit of a rabbit warren with the roads in the beginning. You need to be a bit of an Indiana Jones to find your way out, but after a while it starts to make a bit of sense to you. They have all the usual things you would expect a park to have, including a decent sized laundry. And it has the weirdest looking toilet dump I've ever seen. It's like an outside loo, complete with a pull chain for the flush. About the only thing I could find a problem with, and we're seeing it in more and more places all the time, is the shrinking of the manoeuvring space so they can fit more people in. At the rate things are going, people are really going to have to start improving their reversing of a van if they want any hope of getting into any future caravan parks. As we leave the park, you can see that the site sizes are big enough for your van plus to hang out and annex. But then you have to park your car on the edge of the road, which gives others less space to work with. However, people are pretty quick to come out and ask if you need them to move their car to help you out. With all that, if I ever come back to Broome, I'll be more than happy to stay here again. Well, good morning folks. It's the start of leg 2 of our road trip Perth to Darwin. We've had a couple of days in Broome and now we're heading out. It's an early morning start. We're staying at the Cable Beach Caravan Park the last few days, and a bit of a cool start today, so I'll have a bit of a review of the caravan park in there somewhere. Today we're just pretty much driving through. We're going to be trying to stay at Mary's Pool, or Mary Pool. but it's a 24-hour stop. It's a pretty good stop. It's everybody knows about it, and it's probably going to be real hard to get into it. So we haven't had a lot of luck at staying in the places I've wanted to stay at because of most people start stopping at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. By the time we get there, they're pretty full. But there are plenty of places along this road that we can stop. So we'll just have to find somewhere else. That's all. Now, heading out on this section of the road, cows are a big issue. There are no real fences on the properties. They, as I've said before, they like to sit on the side of the road or even on the road. So doing this section at night time is probably not the best of ideas. As you're driving along, if you see helicopters quite low, you know, hovering around and ginning around all over the place, probably don't watch the helicopters. Keep your eye on the road, because that means they're probably mustering, and quite likely mustering towards you. I have had it once when I've come up along here. There was a helicopter floating around, and as I come around the corner, there was a big pile of cows in the middle of the road. And they're supposed to put signs out to say that they're mustering, but I don't think they had signs out, because I certainly didn't see anything. Luckily enough, I had plenty of room to sort of stop and let them all sort of come through and everything. But yeah, don't watch the aircrafts, watch the road, because it's probably something going on around you. Up here we have mostly Brahman cows, as opposed to down south they have more the you know, the Angus and the other sort of types of cows. Up here the Brahmans are the ones, because they handle the heat a lot better than the standard sort of cow. And they're not bothered by ticks and things like that, where the other cows are. Ticks seem to leave them alone up here, apparently. So we will see lots of Brahmans around here. Big meat exporting out of Broome harbour behind us. Export a lot to Malaysia and Indonesia. In fact, a few years ago there was a big uproar about the way they were handling the cattle and everything, and they shut down the live beef export for a while there, which did hurt the farmers up here. So much so that one of the farmers thought he'll plan for the future. So he built a $1 million abattoir about 100 kilometres out of Broome, and he can process the meat in the correct way for the religious reasons, and then pack them out ready to go. So he's hoping that that will be his new industry, and that won't then have an impact on the farmers. If they stop the live beef export, then they can still sell their beef to the same markets. They'll be packed and ready to go. That's a little bit about this region. So we've got probably about 7 hours driving today. Pretty much just a driving day. A couple of stops we'll do along the way. And hopefully we'll get a nice spot under a tree at Mary Pool. I've done about 50 kilometres, and I've just pulled over into a parking bay. I want to check the wheel nuts, because while we're in Broome, I thought I might have had a possible problem with the bearings here, so I've taken these wheels off. It was all good, no dramas at all, and I put them back on again. But I've just pulled over now so I can check the wheel nuts to make sure they haven't come loose, because when you first put nuts on, potentially they could perhaps come a little bit loose after you've driven down the road. So it's a good idea to just check them and have a look. Well, it was all good, so back on the road.
When you choose to take the road, brother, please let the wind into your soul and start to breathe. Together we'll be free.
Sometimes you've got to expect the unexpected. Between Broome and Williri, obviously the road's deteriorated quite a fair bit, and we're now down to 80 kilometres an hour because the roadworks has been going for about the last 10 kilometres, and at the moment there's no signs of it stopping. Some sections of the road are quite bad, so perhaps maybe when you're planning, take into account you need to allow for the unexpected, as in roadworks and things like that. We've had a lot of rain up here this season, so perhaps it's a little bit of road damage from the rain, and then with the heat and the big trucks travelling along here. Not that we've seen any yet, but that sort of deteriorated the road a little bit. It's a little bit bouncy, a little bit rough in places. Oops, we're down to 60 now. But it does give you the opportunity to enjoy the scenery. This is another one of those little, I suppose, hazards you can call them, is these one-lane bridges. There's a few of them along here. They, you can only have one vehicle at a time in any direction. So protocol basically is whoever gets here first has right of way. So I've just arrived here. There was a car on the bridge, another car waiting to come in the opposite direction. So I gave him a couple of flicks, told him to come through, and then I've come through. Now if you get up here and there's a truck coming at you, and you've got right of way, bearing in mind if he's a road train, he can't pull up in a hurry. So it's probably a good idea to give him a couple of flicks, let him come through first, and then you go afterwards. Because when it comes to dealing with heavy vehicles, you really don't want to have a battle over who's first and who's bigger than the other. We're not too far out of Derby now, but we're going to turn right here and continue on the Fitzroy crossing. We're not going into Derby on the way up. We're going to do that on the way back. We're going to spend a couple of days there and go off to have a look at Tunnel Creek and a couple of other things. But at the moment, we're going to be heading to Fitzroy crossing. Now these signs here, these are really good because they'll let you know if the roads are open or not. So it always pays to have a look at them. And of course, being bitumen and this time of the year, we've got no problem. All the roads are open all the way through to Kununurra. They'd be basically closed during the flood season. There's a big baobab tree here coming up on the right. But that's a small one compared to our next stop. So we are going to do a stop up here shortly at what's called the Big Baobab. Now those of you from Perth or those that have visited Perth, you may have been into Kings Park, and you perhaps have seen the big baobab tree they have in Kings Park there. That came from up here, a little bit further up. We'll be going through there tomorrow, a place that we used to call years ago Turkey Creek. But these days it's referred back to, or changed back to its original Aboriginal name, which was Broome. They were realigning a highway, and this big tree was in the way, and rather than wood chip it up, they worked out it was 750 years old. So they thought, let's take it down to Perth and we'll plant it in Perth and see how it goes. So that tree down there, if you've seen that one, that is 750 years old. Wait till you see the one that's up here.
Together we'll be free. It's not just you and me.
Now that's a boab tree. Now the one in Kings Park, 750 years old. They estimate this one is somewhere around about 2,000 years old.
In your eyes, see the changes passing by. Changes passing by. In your eyes.
It's not a bad spot to stop and have lunch. So let's see what the chef's been preparing while we've been waiting. While we were having lunch, a stupid bird decided to have a go at another bird.
Together we'll be free. It's not just you and me. Together we'll be free. It's not just you and me.
For the most part, most of what we've been travelling through for the last, week, it's all been relatively flat land where we've gone through. We're now in the Kimberleys, and we're starting to get some hills of things, some amazing drives through here. We're just going through now the Erskine Ranges, and later on we'll have some other ones come up as well. Quite amazing drives coming through here. Just sit back, some good tunes on the radio, and just cruise along through. Coming into Fitzroy Crossing, we had a fire out to the right. Now this isn't unusual to see up here, because they do a lot of hazard reduction burning, although I don't know if this was one of them or was it deliberately lit. If you do see a fire, it would pay to be aware of what's going on around you, just in case it's something more serious. Fitzroy Crossing is where you'll find Geeky Gorge. It's not far out of town, and you can do a great little boat tour. This would be your first opportunity to see freshwater crocodiles. I just can't get my head around the fact that when in flood, the water rises 16 metres up the wall. This is the Fitzroy River we're coming up to here. They have talked about damming the Fitzroy River like they did with the Ord River, but it's not going to work because out there where the floodplain is for the Fitzroy River, it's all more or less flat, no real hills. So to hang on to all that water, there's no hills to hold the water in. It's not like the Ord River. It's in amongst hills, and they made just basically natural walls, dam walls, to hold the water. There was an attempt to dam the river at one point, but with the force of the water when it's in flood, it just completely, totally destroyed the dam they had in place. Because the water comes down here just so fast. It's just completely different to the Ord River. So I can't see that they can ever successfully dam the Fitzroy River. As you travel around Australia, you will always come across someone that thinks it's a great idea to ride a bike in the bush. Okay, it's their right, I guess, and their choice. Let me say this, on a straight bit of road, it's not a problem. It's when it comes to corners and over hills that it is. These roads were never made to have bikes on them. You come halfway around a bend and there's a bike on the road. If you have a heavy vehicle and there is traffic coming towards you, you can't just go around the bike. So let's see that again at the height of a truck. And now at real time. And these lay-down bikes, by the time you see it and then react to it, it's not a lot of time. And that little flag at the back really doesn't help. And a heavy truck will have a real hard time getting from 100 kilometres an hour to 20 kilometres an hour in a very short space of time. Well, we're just about coming up to our overnight stop. Mary Pool, Mary River, depending on what map you're reading, which way it goes. We're actually getting here early, first time since we left Perth. It's only 3:30, but it still might not be early enough to be able to get a spot in here. This is a very popular place, so we'll go in and have a look and see if we can find ourselves somewhere to pull up. If not, then we'll have to continue down the road a little bit further to see if we can find somewhere else, but let's hope we can get into this one. trying to find the right spot to camp needs a lot of eyes looking in all directions. You're looking for somewhere flat, has a bit of shade, and somewhere that isn't right next to somebody else's camp. Well, to my surprise, we actually got a spot in here, so that's pretty good. We're right by the river, it's just down here. Not that there's any water in it, but anyway, this is our camp for the night. Mary Pool is about halfway between Broome and Kununurra. As I said, it's really popular. There is plenty of space, with lots of trees to provide plenty of shade on those hot days. And with the new entrance we came in on, there is twice the amount of camping space, although not so many trees in the new bit. The stop has a couple of drop toilets and a toilet dump facility. I've even seen people with fishing lines in the water here, when there was water. I've no idea what they think they're going to catch here. Maybe sandgroper? Yep, it's a good place to end the day, and this video. If you like what you see, and you want to see more, then hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. But till next time, happy travels!